kind of some breaking news today. Tim McGraw, he was our big wide live concert person that was coming into town. They postponed the concert. They said there were some logistical issues. They also said just kind of the aftermath of the explosion. Yeah,
Wow.
it's kind of made things a little bit different. And I know kind of big news. I understand why they're doing it. Still kind of tough news. And I think that
Right.
we're seeing that, this definitely has an impact on the local economy. I don't know, Guy. I mean, is
This
this
this is the second major event that's scheduled this summer for downtown. It's been canceled basically because of the aftermath of the explosion. The first one was the Italian Fest, scheduled for late July, and now Tim McGraw on August 2nd. So I'm wondering if city officials are concerned about this becoming chronic, that people have fears about going downtown and really affecting the economy down there.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, I mean, what do we do? I think we understand why these things happen. We understand what's going on right now with that stuff, but I think there's a big concern. I mean, how do we solve this, you think?
Yeah, and it was wondering if if it was the Tim McGraw people that initiated the questions, maybe because last I heard, I thought all systems were go. Ween Park was safe from any buildings falling down around them, but maybe just the fact that big crowds coming to downtown is kind of creating a little uneasiness. I know, a couple of relatives had bought tickets to the event, and it hadn't deterred anyone. And I don't think sales were down for this concert, which is usually the top ticket of the summer for concerts in the area.
Well, and I think the big thing that people are mindful of is, this isn't super close to where the explosion happened. I think there might be more of a logistical issue about how to get people in and out
Parking,
downtown. Yeah,
right?
and that stuff too. I mean, thankfully, the concert, like Green Park, isn't right by where the explosion happened, but
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of concerns there. I wonder, though, too, I hate to compare this to what happened with 9/11. Obviously, it was a lot different. It was almost like comparing apples to oranges. But I think part of what you need to do is get the city back to a sense of normalcy.
Right,
And I
right.
know it's easier said than done. I know it doesn't happen right away. But I think that's the thing that I'm really concerned about right
And
now.
it will need an event like a Tim McGraw concert to get the city past this place of uneasiness, let's call it, about,
Right.
safety issues.
And, this happened recently. This didn't,
Right. And with this week being, chopped up because of the holiday, city officials may not be around to comment. So it may be, next week till we hear
right.
what basically is the reaction to all of this.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that's the big thing to remember. So, and again, the city credited Tim McGraw's people. They rescheduled for 2025. You have time to refund your tickets. You're like, hey, I may not be around. The date in 2025 may not work. I like I said, Guy, it's too soon after the concert got canceled, so we don't know exactly what's going on. But I think we need a sense of getting back to a sense of normalcy. And
Right.
we've had events downtown. They
And
had
maybe,
nice,
I mean, city officials can schedule something that, can bring this community back together and, make everybody feel comfortable about going downtown.
yeah. And I think that's the thing that kind of really concerns me right now with
Right.
everything else. How do we get back to a sense of normalcy? I know that they're still trying to figure out what's going on. There was a report in the Vindicator today talking about, the owners of the Realty building, they still own the building. I know July 5th is their deadline. From everything they said in the public, they said, hey, it just makes sense for us to tear it down. And from what the Vindicator report today, I think they're hoping to have it torn down by August. I know on Friday there's a Save the Realty Building rally going on. I know we still have some unknown questions about what's happening there. You know, the big question, man, is how do we move forward? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think we're recording this on July 3rd. We plan on having this out by July 5th. I know there's some unanswered questions. I know there's some things that we still got to figure out that we don't know on July 3rd. That hopefully we'll know maybe July 5th or July 10th or the situation. But what troubles me is just like, let's get regular events back and let's figure out how to move ahead. And I'll give the city officials credit. That's why Mayor Brown stood in front of a press conference a week ago and said, "Hey, you know, this is kind of holding a lot of people hostage downtown. Let's move forward."
Right.
And I think we're in that process of moving forward. I think the hard thing right now is there's a lot of big name events going on, and I think there's uncertainty saying, "Hey, can these events make the money they would need to make?" I mean, bring in somebody like Tim McGraw, that's a
Right.
high price talent. I mean, you're not, just hiring your local band to come play.
Right.
And I think they want to make sure they can make money, which again, as a business, they have the right to do that. And it's just more of a question of, how best we move forward in this situation.
Maybe what's needed is the downtown merchants and the other area attractions like the Powers Auditorium, the Cavelli Center, the Penguin Brewery, Penguin City Brewery. They can get together, schedule an event to get everybody downtown for something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see Fisher maybe saying, "Hey, it's not as easy as you guys say it is." Well, how do we work together to do something in town? And again, being the media, we don't just want to sit and criticize. It's more of how can we work together? How could even we partner with the city to come up with something? I mean, we're open
Right.
to something like that. And again, I think the awkward thing about this is we're in that unknown time. And being the media and being people that want to try to get the truth out there, it's so much easier to say, "Hey, this definitely is happening. This definitely isn't happening." And it gets frustrating when sometimes we have more questions than answers. We're trying to get these questions answered, but it's the uncertain time. It's like
Right. Right.
the first couple of days of COVID. We had no idea what was going on with COVID.
Right.
We learned
Right.
more as time went on. So we hope in the next few weeks, not just for us in the media on how we report it, but for the city too. Let's try and get some of these questions answered, and let's try to move forward. Like I told you in the past, I know there's an outcry, and there were some people even responding to our podcast when we talked about the realty building, saying we love the realty building. It would be great to save it. And as I said a few weeks ago, I don't think we're pushing for it to go away or anything. I think both of us realize the toughness of being able to save it. And hey, if
Right.
there's an enterprising smart person downtown that can figure it out,
Right.
go for it. I mean, we
And
will.
maybe the cost of shoring it up may be too prohibitive, and to level it and start over again would be a something, or else sell it to another investor to put something better there. I mean, that's the thing. And like you said, this uncertainty will remain, but the thing is, the confidence in downtown has to return, and canceling concerts is not the way to do it.
Yeah, but to give them credit, and again, we don't have official full length statement on what's happening, but to give them credit, I think there's concern that in terms of the money that can be made and making sure they can cover their costs.
Right, right.
Because
That could be an economic thing, and say that. I mean, and that's the one thing that the PR people when we say this is not because of fear of safety of going downtown. It's the fact that maybe the ticket sales were falling behind, and we don't know if we're going to cover our costs. The logistics of maybe staying away from the central square area, and it may hazard traffic with that many people expected, 20 to 30,000 people to the concert getting into that downtown area because, Central Square, like its name, is centrally located. So you'd have to go by there to get to the venue. So that
yeah,
may be it.
and I'm
But
seeing
we
a
don't
quote.
have these answers right now.
Well, we have a Joan quote, and let me share that. Jack Management Corp made a quote. Jack CEO Eric Ryan, this is as reported in WKBN. There was a quote that said, Wildlife has always been about showcasing all the amenities our downtown has to offer. Striving for the absolute best experience for the fans, downtown businesses, and artists alike has always been at the forefront of our mission. We have decided that postponing the event until next year is the best scenario for all involved. And that's according to Jack CEO Eric Ryan, is reported in WKBN. Um, I, I think you make an argument both sides of this. Yeah, I think whenever you have an event downtown, think about Columbus or Cleveland or Cincinnati. Sometimes if you sit there and say, hey, the All-Star game's here one night, you say, okay, everyone's going to turn their lights on. We're going to showcase the restaurants downtown and everything. That is a thought that a lot of cities have. So there's a lot of truth and relevance to what Eric is saying. There might be a question saying, no, yeah, we want to spotlight the best of the city, but can we spotlight and say, hey, this city is still moving forward?
Right.
I think there's two ways of looking at it. And to Eric's credit, I mean, you can make an argument both ways on that. You might want to sit there and say, we want to showcase the best of our city. We're not quite there at this present moment. So can we wait until we have everything firmed up? I mean,
and maybe if it's the 1st of September, I understand there'd be competition with the Canfield Fair, but maybe mid-September have some kind of event down there. It of course it can't include Tim McGraw this year because of
yeah.
his schedule, but maybe somebody else coming in,
Well,
or just
well,
have local talent come down there
right.
for a nice concert.
Well, I think the tough thing is with Wildlife and the Jack, and what's always been the showcase. I mean, you've had a really big name act. Kid Rock last year.
Right.
You've had country stars in the past and everything. And maybe they were sitting there and saying, hey, we bring other people down throughout the year. But this time, let's showcase and make sure we have that in mind.
And it doesn't mean have to be something about the name of the concert, but the event itself needs to be showcased. If you see what I'm saying.
No,
The downtown.
no, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think, to me, and again, I'm not speaking for Jack on this. This is kind of how Chris Pugh's looking at it. Youngstown sometimes gets a lot of older rock stars. Like last night, the Beach Boys were in town and everything.
Right.
Stars that may not be grade A now, like they may have been in the past. And I think this Wide Live, one of the allures for it is, maybe Tim McGraw's not at Taylor Swift level right now, but Tim McGraw's probably a lot better name than you normally see in Youngstown. So you showcase that. And see, here's the other thing, too. And some of our readers who've talked about what we said in the last week's podcast, you have to walk a fine line if you're a business in downtown. If I'm investing money in Youngstown, I want the best. I want to bring my best foot forward. I want the best business to go downtown. But then on the other hand, I got to look at it too and say, I need to make money and make sure I can afford to be here, making sure I'm putting my best foot forward. So I think when you look at things like this Tim McGraw concert and the other stuff too, you've got two competing purposes here. You're sitting here saying, we're bringing this great event to Youngstown. We want to showcase Youngstown. Yay, Youngstown. If we succeed, Youngstown succeeds. Let's both succeed together. But at the same time, too, in the back of their minds, they got to say, hey, man, we invested this much money to bring Tim McGraw down. We got to make sure we're meeting our costs. So how do you do that? You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing they're struggling with right now.